Hello and welcome to Toran IS. My name is Shivan Parashar, and after discussing entry of Europeans, now we are discussing decline of Mughal Empire. If you are taking any test series for main civil service, mains examination, you will often find a question on this topic, decline of Mughal Empire. It's very objective topic because here we have to just whenever there is a question, we have to write the main causes, what happened actually at the time that the Mughal Empire, which was known all over the world for its administrative efficiency, for its revenue system, for its military strength, for its vast territorial empire, it declined. And okay, so it's a very, you can say, very important event in the history of modern India. And after the decline of Mughal Empire, actually the modern India started. I mean, that new kind of socio-economic conditions emerged because of the now the territories were ruled by the foreign power, which was totally different from the socio-economic conditions in India, which was totally different kind of power at the time. So, and we will discuss it later, but the Britishers were the reason that the modern things started in India. A lot of in a social perspective, you can say, from the economic perspective, you can say the modern times started from the entry of the Britishers. So the Mughal Empire is actually represented a very old kind of socio-economic structure in India, and even the military structure also. The way they were keeping their military, the way they are keeping their cavalry, their soldiers, their horses, it was very tight. And this was actually one of the big reasons that they lost against a foreign power. Even if they were small in the numbers, but they could defeat very large armies, right? And so we will discuss the one by one all the reasons for the decline and disintegration of the Mughal Empire. And it starts from the Aurangzeb's rule. Okay, so Aurangzeb, he led a Deccan campaign. Actually, before that, the policy of the Mughal rulers was like that they wanted to negotiate with the local rulers. If some local power is trying to wage a war or they are asserting their power, then they will try to negotiate with them rather than trying to suppress them completely. That kind of arrangement between the Rajputs and the Delhi and started from the Akbar's time, right? There was a very strong relationship between the Rajputs and the Mughals from the time of the Akbar, right? But what happened when Aurangzeb became the ruler? Initially, he was like that, okay, we will keep the same kind of relationship with all the local powers, but he wanted to extend his rule further to the south, and he didn't just wanted to, the win over the territory, but he wanted to suppress the rulers, and it became one of the big reasons for their disintegration of their rule. Okay, so he led a Deccan campaign. He wanted to extend his empire further to the south, and he fought all for almost 25 years, and he was out of his capital, Delhi. And because of which, what happened when you're waging a war for such a long period of time? What will happen? Your military strength will decline, your revenue, strength will decline, and you will totally, you will totally destroy the trading system. If you're fighting a war, what will happen? If you're fighting war here, then the trading will not happen here. How the traders will go from this side? I mean, how will they trade if politically that area is not stable, right? So these were the fallout of his Deccan campaign. The military strength declined. His revenue system actually was not sustainable anymore, and there was one more important thing. What happened after that was that neglect of northwestern front, because it was very important front. If any invader was coming from Central Asia or further Asia, then it had to come from this northwestern side. So this, they didn't give too much attention to this side, and because of this, the invaders were easily coming right next to the Delhi. So this became one of the important reason. You can write down one of the important reason because of this the starting of the decline of modern foreign Mughal Empire started. Okay, now the what happened not only with Marathas, had uh, he had problems, but also with Rajputs. And Rajputs, they were just right next to the Delhi, and Mughals had very good relationship with the Rajput, but Aurangzeb wanted to suppress them as well. And the conflict with Rajputs also exhausted their military strength, their revenue strength, their money strength, and everything. Because if you're fighting a war always, then what will happen? You can't rule peacefully. You can't improvise your revenue system. You can't make your military stronger. And one of the another thing happened that even the peasant rulers like the Jat and the Sikhs, mostly they were ruling over the area where the only the peasants were there. They also had uprising. So all was happening during the time of Aurangzeb. He was having confrontation with every local ruler. Another thing which happened during the Aurangzeb's rule was that he reversed the religious policy. He changed the policies of his earlier rulers. He imposed the jizya on the people of different faiths, and he demolished various Hindu temples in northern India. What happened after that? That not only the people but also the nobles and the officers, they all antagonized with the king. Okay, so this also be one of the reasons, right? Generally it is given much attention that people, some experts say no, this was the main reason because of which the Aurangzeb's rule was hated by all the local rulers, zamindars, and so it became very difficult to hold all the system together, because before him the Akbar and Shah Jahan, Jahangir, they all tried to avoid uh, interfering too much into the religious practices of the people of India. But Aurangzeb himself, being a very staunch religious person, he imposed these policies over the people of India, and actually this became one of the reasons for the disintegration of Aurangzeb. So you can say that. Okay, so now the next region we will discuss is the wars of succession. What used to happen in the Mughal Empire, that there was no definite law. According to that, if a king is deceased, then it's the who will become the successor, who will become the king. So what used to happen? The princes used to fight among themselves for the throne, and it happened after the during the Shah. Actually, Shah became very old, and there was a fight between the Aurangzeb and this Dara Shikoh. And here I would like to discuss that it is often discussed, and it is being discussed a lot nowadays because of the current dispensation in India, that the had Dara Shikoh become the king of India, not Aurangzeb, then things would have been totally different in India, because we know that Dara Shikoh was a very secular person. He was actually reading the various Puranas of Hindu scriptures, and he actually translated all the Puranas into the Persian, because Persian was the official language at the time. And so it's a point of discussion, but it's not for our discussion. We will just stick to our point that what actually happened. It led to the decline and disintegration of Mughal Empire. So now the wars of succession was the reason, and even after the death of Aurangzeb, there were fights among the sons of Aurangzeb. However, he had actually will for his sons. He had decided that who will get what, but it didn't happen. And after that, there was a various quick succession among the rulers. Actually, after one ruler, then there was another ruler, then there was another ruler, then there was fight not only among the princes but also among the nobles. Noble had the aspirations to become the kings, and they were actually the Sayyid brothers who were playing a very big role deciding who will become the king. So this actually what was the result of this? That it exhausted the money, it exhausted the military strength of the empire, it exhausted the centralized nature of the empire, and the nobles and the jamidars, they were rebelling very often, and the local rulers, they had the aspirations, and they were asserting their autonomous rule, they were asserting their independence. So this all happened because of the one of the reason we can attribute here is the wars of succession. And after that, there is another reason, not the single reason, but it also a reason that the king, after the Aurangzebs, all the kings were actually the weak. They were not the firm rulers. They were luxury loving. They were just indulging into the leisure. They were not worried about what was happening to their kingdom, what was happening, how their territory was being ruled, how their empire is being ruled. They were not worrying about that. Taking, they were just thinking about themselves, and actually they were short-sighted rulers. So actually, it was also the big reason. But it is said that the academicians, experts say, historians say that it had the nobles, they had risen to the occasion and they had controlled the things, then things would have not been different. Sorry, things would have been different. Even if the kings were luxury loving, if the kings were weak, that had the nobles been of the character, then things would have been totally different. So, but the nobles also actually, what happened? They were corrupt, they were selfish, they were just because the kings were not worrying about the kingdom, then they also were not loyal anymore to the kings. They were bickering among themselves. They were having their own groups. They were the Toranis, they were Doranis, they were the Afghans, and Doranis are actually the Afghans. They were Turkish nobles, and they were actually having the group. They were fighting among themselves. They were trying to make the king of their own choice, and they were fighting for more jagis. They were fighting for more money, more power. So actually, so there was the oneness character of the rule. Actually, the death was not there anymore after the death of Aurangzeb. And what was the reason actually why the nobles were like that? Had so the reason is said actually that the earlier the nobles used to come from the lower strata of the society, so they used to have a very strong loyalty towards the throne, and it used to lead to new blood into the noble system. But what was happening actually over the period of time? What happened, because no Mughal rule was now more than 100 years old. So the nobles actually they were trying to make their positions hereditary. They wanted their son to become nobles rather than fighting for the position. So the new nobles, they were actually not from the lower set of the society. They were just they were just worrying about their positions. They were just trying to keep their their power, their privileges intact. This is what they were caring about. So this is the reason that actually the kings and nobles actually they were not actually thinking about their empire. They were just thinking about themselves. Now, there was a one thing happened during the time of Aurangzeb, and even after that, there was a paucity of Jagir. So, what was Jagir? Jagir was actually the ownership of particular area from which the person, the noble, had the power to take the revenue, okay, from this area, and in return, he had to keep a certain number of troops with him, and those troops will be used for any war if whenever king demands for them. So this was a Jagidari system actually. But what was happening that the number of nobles were rising very very fast. There was Mansabdari system in which a person was given a rank, okay, and according to the Mansabdari, and according to that rank, he was given a particular amount of money, and he had to keep a particular number of cavalry with him, particular number of soldiers with him, and particular number of horses with him. Okay, this was the Mansabdari system, and later it was also known as the Jagir system. So number of nobles had risen to a very high, and it was leading to a paucity of Jagir. And then what was happening that the nobles, they were trying to extract as much revenue as possible from those Jagirs, and it was leading to the exploitation of the peasants, and it actually led to the you can say that in it led to the rebellions of the peasant rulers like the Jats and the Sikhs and the Satnami. Okay. Now the another important reason is the economic stagnation. What is happening, because all the nobles and all the Jagirdars, they were trying to extract as much money as possible from the peasants, from their Jagirs. So peasants did not have enough money to invest back into their agriculture fields, and it was leading to the stagnation of agriculture, right? And not just the agriculture stagnation, also there was no focus on the innovation, you can say, because a lot of new things were happening during this time in the European nations. But in India, because the economic system was so much self-sufficient at the time, the even village economy was self-sufficient. So there were not much focus for offshore trade. There was not much focus on having something new to trade, right? They were just thinking about that, okay, we are self-sufficient, we are the money which we are generating from the agriculture fields that is sufficient. They were not trying to, have different kind of trade, different kind of things, or there was no focus on the scientific development. So there was an economic stagnation, and then later it became one of the reasons that you know the the rulers after the Mughals also, and the last Mughals, they did not have enough money to fight against the Britishers, who had actually advanced economic system back in their home. Okay, so now another reason is the no political nationalism. At the time, actually, nobody, not even the people, not even the zamindars, not even the local rajas or Rajputs, Marathas, you name anyone, they didn't have any feeling that India was one. India was a one single nation. There was no such feeling at that time. And actually, so what used to happen whenever there was uh, a outside ruler or outside invader is coming to fight, right? They are invading. Then nobody was troubled that okay, they should actually help the king to fight against the foreign invaders. There was no such thing. Okay, so and it actually the foreign invaders and later the foreign imperial powers, they took advantage of this thing. And as we discussed earlier, that the Portuguese actually they intervened between the two rajas of Kochi and the Calicut. Okay, so and later when the Britishers, they actually got entry into the southern India, it was because they intervened, which we will discuss later when we will discuss the English French wars, Anglo French wars. They took advantage of this feeling that nobody was worrying about the nation. There was no such feeling, not even the people. Local people, they were not worrying that who was ruling in Delhi or who was ruling in the capital of their province. They were not worried about that, right? So there was no political nationalism. Okay, so this was also reason that the foreign invaders could easily intervene into the mutual beginning of the local rulers, and they took advantage of this thing. And now that all those things, what happened, that the all those wars, all those decline of the noble characteristics, their talent, and the weak rulers, what happened actually, that it led to the decline in the administrative efficiency. Now it was difficult to get the revenue out of the Jagirs, and there was actually a lot of bribery, indiscipline, that the local Zamindars, they were rebelling whenever they got the opportunity, whenever they saw that the centralized authority is little bit weak, then they will rebel against it. Okay, and so, and then later actually the provincial rulers, provincial governors, they will assert their independence, uh, like the Bengal governor or the Nizam. He actually, after becoming wazir and after 2 years, when he realized that the king was not in interest, the king had no interest ruling the empire efficiently, he went back to the Hyderabad, and he actually defeated the local governor there, and he established a Nizam Shahi in the Hyderabad. Okay, so it started happening after the 1720s, in fact, and late 1740s and then 1750s. It was actually that the independent rulers were there in the, especially three main independent rulers were there. There was Awadh, Bengal, and this Hyderabad. Okay. Now, what all this thing led to, that the most important thing for which the Mughal Empire was known, that the military strength declined. It weakened up to a great extent, right? The soldiers, they were not given the full salary. For months, they were not given the salary. And the Jagidar, they were not keeping months after, they were not keeping the fix the quota of the troops which they were supposed to keep. So now they were losing all the wars and everything. So the military strength declined, and it was the last, you can say, nail in the coffin. Because if you don't have the strong military, then how you will rule over the country? So after that, the Marathas, they were easily defeating the Mughals. They even reached to the Delhi, but it was the third battle of Panipat which actually led to the defeat of the Marathas. And after that, it was decided that who was not going to rule over the Delhi. It was decided after the 1761 that it was not the Mughals and it was not the Marathas who were going to rule over Delhi after the war between the Ahmad Shah Abdali and the Marathas. We will discuss that later. Okay, so uh, so these were the reason, actually. You can easily write down whenever there is a question on this, you can easily think of this. Okay, there must be some economic problem, there must be some military problem, there must be some people problem of the nobles, of the kings, of Aurangzeb particularly. You can write down 2 3 points which we discussed earlier. And another point you can add is that there was series of foreign invasions. This weakened the empire not only financially but also the militarily. Okay, so what happened that when Nadir came in 1739, he actually crashed the Delhi very badly. He demolished the Delhi. Okay, so he looted the Delhi. Everything he took away. Famous thing is that he took away the Kohinoor Hira, okay, Kohinoor diamond, and he took so much money with him that for 3 years he did not impose any tax in his kingdom. Okay, so this much amount of money he took away with himself. So what happened when he came from this side? All these areas they actually got a little bit independent. The Mughal authority was not there after the 1739 for a long period of time. Okay, so and it made the northern western side more vulnerable for further invasion. And Ahmad Shah Abdali invaded from 1748 to 1767, and he actually weakened these invasions weakened the authority of Mughal Empire very badly. And it was now after 1761, it was very well known that no, now Mughals cannot come back anymore. They cannot regain the strength. But after 1761, the Marathas regained the strength, which we will discuss later. Marathas regained the strength. Okay, so now the emergence of Britishers also. The Britishers were very different power. They came from very, as I told you earlier, that they came from a very advanced socio-economic nation, you can say. So they had a better way of fighting the wars. They had the better way of organizing their military. However, the other Rajas or Mughals, they were not thinking about any advancement of the military, right? They were not thinking how to find different ways of fighting wars. But the Britishers, they had different ways of fighting wars. That's why they were able to defeat very large armies of Mughals or other Rajas, earlier, which we will discuss later, very easily, because they had advanced system of organizing their armies, advanced system of training their armies, advanced weaponry they had. Okay, so this, the Mughals, they were okay, they were easily, not easily, but they were actually defeating the Marathas. They were taking care of the Marathas or the other rulers, but they could not handle the Britishers. No, and it all, you can say that it was the not just the Mughals but all the rulers, the Marathas and the Nizam, little Nizam, or even the Mysore Raja Bodhya dynasty. They did not have the vision. They were not able to understand the ulterior motives of these foreign powers, and they did not give any attention to developing their navy. However, they were seeing that okay, the foreign powers, they had advanced navy, but they did not care about having an advanced navy. They were so complacent about their rule that okay, they were such a great king that they could easily defeat these powers. Gradually, slowly, what happened that the Britishers became the ruler of this country, the great country India. Okay, so this is enough for this topic. Now we'll discuss another topic after this. Till then, bye bye. Thank you.